Hey, Exiles. Let's talk about Path of Exile 2 and Path of Exile 1 and the reality of the situation that we are currently in. I'm going to lead with the moral of the video right here and now. Both games are incredibly fun. I enjoy them both immensely, and Path of Exile 1 is way more different compared to Path of Exile 2 than I thought it was after not playing it for over 2.5 months and spending over 220 hours in Path of Exile 2. I returned to Path of Exile 1 for the Legacy of Phrecia event. I hit level 80 in hardcore, so I've played through the campaign, I've played early endgame up to tier 7 maps, and I have thoughts on the game compared to Path of Exile 2, and that's what this video is going to be all about. So it's a little bit of a yap, a little bit of a ramble, but I thought it would be an interesting topic to broach, given we are currently in a bit of a drought for Path of Exile 2 major content. We are getting teasers and we will talk about those soon enough, but right now we don't expect any major drops for probably a week and a half, 2 weeks. So what do I want to lead with? Well, I want to talk about what I miss from Path of Exile 1. For those of you who don't know and maybe just started watching my channel with Path of Exile 2, I have been playing Path of Exile 1 for about 6 years now. I started all the way back in 2019 with Blight League, and I have been playing characters to the end game all the way through to the end of it. So yes, that's killing Ubers, it's killing all the pinnacles, it's getting characters to level 100, beating all the challenges the games have to offer for a long stretch of time now. So I guess I am a Path of Exile veteran and a little bit of a blaster. So for someone who really enjoys Path of Exile 2, what do I miss from Path of Exile 1? Well, let's lead with this. Here we are. Welcome to my Path of Exile 1 hideout. And no, it's not the hideout that I'm missing. That is a giant space turtle. It is this right here, the crafting bench of Path of Exile 1. So Path of Exile 2 only people, nothing like this currently exists in Path of Exile 2, unfortunately. So what this can do right here is allow you to add an affix to any item that you can equip to your character except for jewels. So what exactly do I mean by that? Well, beginning in Act 1, I think, or even Act 2, I'm actually not quite sure. I start using it in Act 2, essentially. You can start adding affixes to your gear using the crafting bench. So what you can do is you can pick up an item, put it right here, and it will give you the available affixes that you can add to that item. And you can only have one crafted affix on an item at any time. And the crafts aren't free. They do cost some currency orbs. So this is orbs of transmutation, this is an orb of alchemy, and they scale with the power of the modifiers. There are some edge cases where you can have multiple crafted mods, but we're not going to get into that today. Essentially what this allows you to do is add one affix to your item to help make it better. That's kind of what runes do in Path of Exile 2, but they don't take up an item slot, and they don't have some key modifiers that we're looking for here. One great example. Have you ever played Path of Exile 2, found a pair of boots that are awesome? They have all your res, much like these boots. They have res, they have increased armor, evasion, or energy shield, but they don't have any move speed, and you slam it with an Exalted Orb, no move speed? Well, in Path of Exile 1, you would actually be able to get move speed using the crafting bench. So say we have these boots right here, they have res, they have the increased armor and evasion. We can just go to the movement speed area right here. I have one right here, 18 to 20% increased movement speed, 100% chance to be avoided by being chilled. This is actually a special mod that I unlocked. There's actually the base mod here too, 20 to 24% increased movement speed. You can actually click in and craft lower tiers of these mods on the items as well for less currency orbs. That's just awesome. That's great. That would turn a bunch more items that are missing that one core affix into actually usable items. And what that might do is it might shorten the amount of time that it takes for you to fully gear out your character, but I think that's totally fine. I think right now there's so much RNG related to certain aspects of gearing that it feels really bad, especially in the end game, and a crafting bench would completely get rid of that whole terrible sense that players are having. So I really hope Grinding Gear Games reconsiders adding this simple feature to Path of Exile 2, because it is one of the biggest things I am currently missing from Path of Exile 1, and the replacement system that they were adding with the runes and the soul cores and socketing those into your items. I don't think it's a replacement for what the crafting bench does, and I really hope it returns. Okay, on to the other thing that I really miss from Path of Exile 1, It's just the number of events that happen in endgame, and I know this is something that Grinding Gear Games is aware of in Path of Exile 2 and will be addressed, so I am just continually beating a dead horse here, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I'm gonna have footage up on screen right now of me playing a map in Path of Exile 1. It's not a juiced map. I didn't do any prep for this map. These are all just random events and mechanics that all spawned into this map and made it feel so alive, and it's one of the best things about Path of Exile 1, and I know that they're looking to add more content into Path of Exile 2. It's just not the content missing though. It's the fact that content in Path of Exile 2 maps can just pop, disappear at a moment's notice if you die in the map itself. And it's really hard to get a ton of content into the maps too. You have to do very specific juicing methods with towers, or just have great luck with the actual mechanics spawning in on the maps in the Atlas. And with Path of Exile 1, that really doesn't feel to be the case. You can juice maps, but you can get your maps to a base level where they are having tons of cool mechanics in them. They're just not juiced to the maximum degree of profitability or power. So I love it that I can just pop into a map in Path of Exile 1 and it could have an abyss, it can have a breach, it could be like this map right here that had a breach, that had a June spawn with betrayal, and it had a strong box, and it has all this extra stuff, and it's crazy how many different things can appear in Path of Exile 1, and I know Path of Exile 2 will get the content to us. I just want to make sure it's in a delivery system that allows us to experience the content. So don't take this as me complaining that, oh my goodness, the content isn't in Path of Exile 2 yet. No. It's going to get here. It's going to arrive, but it needs to arrive in a manner in which we'll actually be able to experience it. That is absolutely key. Okay, are you looking at the screen? Are you looking at my inventory? Here's another thing that I am missing right here. 2 stone rings. These are ring type spaces that allow you to have multiple implicit resistances on them. Not prismatic though, that have the abysmally low values. These have fire and cold, or fire and lightning, or cold and lightning, and they are awesome, and I miss them in Path of Exile 2. It just makes fixing resistances way easier, along with the crafting bench. Oh my goodness. Did I mention that I'm missing the crafting bench? And there's something else in the inventory that I'm missing from Path of Exile 2, and I know it's coming, and I'm just gonna say it. Axes. Oh my gosh, different weapon types in Path of Exile 1, even though the skills aren't not that flashy. I mean, look at that. It's not crazy, you know. Look at that. The animation's so bad. We'll talk about animations in a second. But just having these different weapon types and the different ways that they are buffed using the passive skill tree and the like it's going to be a godsend when Path of Exile 2 has all this content in the game, especially the Marauder. I'm also missing the Marauder. Give me my Marauder. Give me my axes. I know it's coming. When I go back to Path of Exile 1, I just think, oh man, the possibilities in Path of Exile 2, they're endless and they're coming. It's just, when are they coming, and will they be in, as I said before, now I'm just going to use that term all the time, a delivery system in which they are fun. Allow me to experience these things in fun ways, Grinding Gear Games. I really, really want to. Oh, I'm on the other side of the screen now. This is another way that you can just express the sheer amount of content in Path of Exile 1 compared to Path of Exile 2. This is the currency tab in Path of Exile 1 right now. When I first opened this, when playing the Legacy of Phrecia event, I thought something had changed with the currency tab. I thought they had added things or reformatted it. And my chat on the live stream on Twitch and YouTube, by the way, just completely dunked on me saying, no, try, are you cooked? You're a Path of Exile 1 player? Are you sure? Because I legit thought something was up. I'll put on the Path of Exile 2 currency tab to compare. They're so different. So there's a lot of stuff that are likely coming to Path of Exile 2 in the long term. I don't think all of these things will make it, but Path of Exile 1 just has a load more in it right now. And that's just something that I did not realize when I was playing Path of Exile 2 until I returned to Path of Exile 1. I didn't realize all the different content systems that were available in the game, how much you encountered right when you stepped into the Atlas. It is a tremendous amount, and I do miss it. But do I like it more than Path of Exile 2? And do I miss all those things from Path of Exile 1 so much so that maybe There's not a lot of things that I missed from Path of Exile 2 when playing Path of Exile 1. Well, now part 2 of the video, we're going to talk about things from Path of Exile 2 that I cannot believe aren't in Path of Exile 1, and I super miss when playing PoE1. The first two are ridiculously simple. WASD, there's no WASD in Path of Exile 1, and pausing. There's also no pausing in Path of Exile 1. WASD is incredible. I love it so much more than click to move. I did get used to click to move after playing for maybe an hour or so, but WASD just feels better to play, and that's going to be a topic we revisit a lot in the next few minutes, my fellow exiles. And then pausing. Oh my gosh, I almost died so many times on my hardcore character in Path of Exile 1 because I just clicked escape and I went to go do something, pick up my daughter, and almost died. Almost died multiple times. I really need to understand that Path of Exile 2 pausing, Path of Exile 1 no pausing, or I'm definitely going to lose that hardcore character if I play it anymore. So I really hope that pausing is at least added to Path of Exile 1. I don't know if WASD can without an overhaul of how the movement system works. I'm going to guess not, but pausing, I think grinding your games might just add that to PoE1. All right, the next few things I love about Path of Exile 2 and that I miss when playing Path of Exile 1 all wrap together pretty much. They are the monster encounters in Path of Exile 2, the boss encounters in Path of Exile 2, and the more methodical combat, especially in the campaign and even in sections of the end game. I really miss that from Path of Exile 2 and playing PoE1. In PoE1, you are zooming almost from the end of Act 1 onward. As soon as you get your movement skill, as soon as you get your Quicksilver flasks, 2 of them up, you are just blasting through everything. You're moving fast, you're killing packs, nothing is surviving for more than a few seconds except for certain rare monsters, and you feel like a god from the end of Act 1. It's kind of crazy, and I don't like that. But a lot of people do. A lot of people really love that experience, and I didn't realize how fast it happens in Path of Exile 1. I didn't realize that you start destroying everything so much faster in Path of Exile 1 compared to Path of Exile 2. And even in Path of Exile 2, you do kill things quickly, but in Path of Exile 1, it's no comparison. Nothing is lasting more than a few seconds on your screen. It's just melting, or you're just moving past it. And that doesn't happen in Path of Exile 2, especially when it comes to boss encounters. Oh my goodness. The dichotomy between bosses in PoE1 and PoE2 is just so stark. Even the act bosses in Path of Exile 1 just don't compare to a lot of the boss fights from regular zones in Path of Exile 2. And as a big boss enjoyer, I really miss that when playing PoE1. It really just turned not only into me just spamming one skill and that feeling really bad in PoE1, it just turned into me going in a circle around them, and that's really not fun. I'm not looking for any moves to dodge, really. I'm just going in a circle, and that's quite boring. And the way my character moved, that's a real big difference to me. The animations of the characters and the monsters. In Path of Exile 2, obviously a lot of work has gone into that, and I do care a lot about that, even, yes, in an ARPG. The way I feel when I'm maneuvering my character matters to me. The way the monsters react to my movements, that matters to me. It's very static and samey in PoE1. As you see in the footage from Path of Exile 1, my Sunder skill, it's just the same movement over and over and over and over. And all the bosses move the same, and they're very jagged, at least the ones that I'm fighting in the axe and early endgame. They're very jagged. There's not a lot of fluidity to that movement. There's not a lot of push and pull and friction to the encounters. That is in PoE2, and that's something that I definitely miss. Okay, and I just love the Path of Exile 2 skill gem system. In Path of Exile 1, the system is very different. You have to get gems that are certain colors, and they socket into your gear, and you need to link the sockets in your gear, and it makes it really difficult to get gear upgrades. And if you're low on certain currencies, well, you're just screwed, and you need to grind for those currencies. It's way too tedious, and I much prefer what we see in Path of Exile 2 right now with the streamlined gem system. Far less of a hassle, far less of a headache, and it still gives you many different possibilities, especially once many more gems make their way into the game. Then I also love this about Path of Exile 2, but Path of Exile 2 still doesn't do it well, in my opinion. There's far less loot on the ground in Path of Exile 2 than in Path of Exile 1, and I like that. Path of Exile 1, there's just a ridiculous amount of loot on the ground, and in Path of Exile 2, there's still quite a bit. I think too much. You have to use a loot filter. You really do, especially at the end game. So grinding your games failed on that part of their promise to allow people to just use the default filter to play the base game. That's impossible, but it's better than in Path of Exile 1. In Path of Exile 1, the number of items on the ground is just ridiculous, even in the campaign itself. Once you get to endgame and start interacting with the league mechanics, it's far more egregious than anything in Path of Exile 2. And I'm glad that at least now loot is less in PoE2, although I am not hopeful for the future once we start getting power creep into the game with league mechanics and the like. I think loot will be in the same scenario as PoE1 in a very short time frame. Okay, so we talked about what I missed from Path of Exile 1, what I missed or love in Path of Exile 2. Now I want to define what Path of Exile 1 truly is, everybody. Okay, Path of Exile 1 is the ultimate power fantasy, hands down. You feel way more powerful, super fast in Path of Exile 1 than really in any other ARPG that I played, and that includes Last Epoch, Diablo 4, Diablo 3, maybe not Torchlight Infinite, but Torchlight Infinite. You just feel so freaking strong in Path of Exile 1, and it does feel good. It does feel good, and it's a different feeling. You legit zoom by the end of Act 1, and you can turn your brain off pretty quickly. And that is something that a lot of people desire, including me. I want that sometimes as well. When I was playing Path of Exile 1, even in hardcore, man, my mind was off. I wasn't worrying about anything. The only thing I had to watch out for were corrupting blood stacks or bleeding stacks on my character. And that was until I got immunity to bleed and corrupting blood on my flask. And then I'm not dying. I don't have to worry about anything at all when I'm playing Path of Exile 1, at least until, the later end game. But during the campaign, oh my goodness, it was a breeze. And in Path of Exile 2, as everyone who's played it knows, that's really not the case. I don't think you can really turn off your mind that hard in Path of Exile 2. You definitely can if you have a solid layer of defenses, especially in the campaign. But in endgame, man, you gotta have your brain on a lot of the time. I feel like, at least with my monk character that I've played for 100 or so hours in the endgame. In Path of Exile 1, man, that's not the case. And so for people who want that chill experience, Path of Exile 1, it's going to be your game. It's going to be your favorite game probably forever until Path of Exile 2 gets to that level of power creep where you can just ignore all the interesting monster abilities and you're only looking for very specific modifiers as you are in Path of Exile 1. So after all of that, what is my big conclusion? This is my personal opinion and it might be different from any of yours. Both games are great. I'm going to have a really nice time playing both of them in the future. I hope that grinding your game supports Path of Exile 1 and Path of Exile 2 for many years to come, and I hope they stay extremely different. I did talk about a few things that I want from Path of Exile 1, but you can note it wasn't related to the feel of the game at all. It wasn't related to the zoomy aspect. It was just a few mechanical systems that would be of great assistance to people in Path of Exile 2, such as the crafting events, or just pure content like axes and the Marauder, and of course the other classes too, the Templar and swords and the like. I want those from Path of Exile 1. But the pure godly feeling that you get uber fast in Path of Exile 1, I don't think it belongs in Path of Exile 2. I believe Jonathan Rogers, Mark Roberts, and the rest of Grinding Your Games agrees with that point of view, but I could be totally wrong. We'll probably get the answer in 0.2.0, which is coming out in just under a month. I'm really nervous to see if they do decide to double down and not encourage people to zoom super fast, as is kind of possible in Path of Exile 2 currently. And if they do pull that power back, I really hope they do. We'll have to see what actually happens though. So yeah, at the end of the day, my ultimate answer is I prefer Path of Exile 2 personally. I enjoy the feel of that game. I'm not huge in the theory crafting right now, the build craft aspect, getting super powerful items from popping off with crafting and engaging in all these different endgame content systems. Now, I like the feel of the games. I like to maneuver my character around powerful boss enemies and enemies in regular maps as well that have cool abilities. I'm much more about the fluidity of Path of Exile 2 than I am about the uber power fantasy of Path of Exile 1. But that's just my preference right now. That might change in the future, and you might have a totally different opinion. I'd be super curious to hear your opinion in the comments below. If you've never played Path of Exile 1, what do you think about the footage you've been seeing? If you played Path of Exile 1 and PoE2, which one do you prefer right now? Love to hear it. There is also one thing that I just have to discuss regarding the whole Path of Exile 1, Path of Exile 2 ARPG discourse, and it's going to pop up on screen right now. I had this tweet that inspired this actual video, and I had one of my friends in the ARPG content creator sphere, Hog, respond to it with an odd statement that I'd like to address and really get the public's opinion on, if you may. He said, in this tweet, I basically just did what I ran down in this video in great detail. He said, sounds like a lot of y'all don't actually like ARPGs and would prefer RPGs like Elden Ring or similar games. So I'm super curious on this front, you guys. Do you think that Path of Exile 2 is comparable at all to Elden Ring? Now, I haven't poured dozens of hours into Elden Ring or Souls-likes. I've probably played for under 15 hours between Dark Souls 1 Remastered and Elden Ring. But from my time with those games, they are nothing like Path of Exile 2. They have cool boss fights, and I think that's where the comparison really ends if we're being fair about this. They're both RPGs, there are weapons in both, there are character classes, right? Okay. But other than that, what are the comparisons? Path of Exile 2 is very similar to Path of Exile 1 and Diablo 4 and Last Epoch and all these other ARPGs. It just has a different blend to it. It just has a different feel with some of its encounters, and it does encourage, in a lot of cases, the ability to maneuver out of certain boss abilities, and if you can do that, you can rely on that skill instead of just the sheer power of your character. But that's always been true in Path of Exile 1 as well. Have you ever seen the Uber Elder kill with the default attack at level 37 or something? Or Ben killing Uber Sirius with auto attack, or any of these crazy challenge modes? You can do that in Path of Exile 1 as well, and many other games. So I don't understand where this Souls comparison continues to come into play. I just don't see Path of Exile 2 being a Souls-like game at all. If I'm just totally off base here, please let me know. And I'm still trying to get that podcast to happen with Hog. I want to get him on to chat about Path of Exile 2 and Diablo 4. I swear it's gonna happen, man. Okay, with that, everybody, we're done. We talked about Path of Exile 1, Path of Exile 2. The PoE1 event was quite fun. If you haven't tried it already, give it a go. Path of Exile 1 is free to play, and if you hit level 20, 40, 60, and 80, you can get armor pieces and an armor set that you can use in Path of Exile 2, and it's decently okay. I'll put up some footage of it on screen throughout the video. It was a fun time revisiting Path of Exile 1, and it really made me check what was reality versus fiction here. Not playing Path of Exile 1 for so long clouded my memory a little bit of the game, honestly, and this was a good check-in with one of my favorite games of all time. As always, thanks so much for watching, my fellow exiles. If you liked the video, make sure to hit the like button, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, go ahead and sub as well, or just watch this video on your screen right now about the upcoming race events in Path of Exile 2, which I am very hyped about, but others are not. And we'll be talking about that very, very soon. Don't you worry. Stay sane.